Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We're back again with a reaction video. I love these reaction videos. I don't know about you.
Alhamdulillah, yeah.
Different sort of video, but not totally outside of our topic of conversations. Like, we're constantly talking about this sort of stuff. So I'm looking forward to reacting to this one today. It's from a channel called Middle Nation. There are a few videos that came under the title of Kawamun. So we're going to look at a video that he posted recently around this topic, and inshallah we're going to try and expand on some of the things he said. Inshallah. You ready?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. You know, I still get sort of nudges every once in a while from people based on the Qawamun content, saying, why don't you take feminism seriously enough, the threat of feminism seriously enough? You're so hard on the red pill guys and you're so easy on the women and the feminists. Look, I don't care what women talk about amongst themselves. I don't care about what women say to each other to pump each other up. Women's behavior is determined by the man that they're with, period. And women cannot make a man do something, and they cannot make a man stop doing something. Men are going to do what they're going to do. If a woman stops a man from doing something, it's because he chose to stop, not because she made him. Women don't have that kind of coercive power over men, period. And if they do, then it's not because of their power or because of the power of feminism, it's because of your weakness as a man. I'm concerned about men being just and men being fair and men treating women properly, men treating humans properly. I'm worried about men's behavior and conduct. I'm not worried about women because they are a subordinate class of people in terms of power, not in terms of value or rights or so on. Because of their status, they have more consideration, because you give more consideration to those who are weaker than you, those who cannot do for themselves as adequately as you can do for yourself. They're to be taken care of. That's awama.
Okay, let's just stop it there. Let me just start by saying I think many women might just hear some of the things he said, freak out and stop listening. But we have to analyse what he just said. So he's not talking about women not having rights. He's not talking about women being less value. I think it's important that we just sort of make that clear from the start. The physical difference between men and women, the difference in nature between men and women does exist, no matter how unpopular it is today. When we're coming from an Islamic perspective, we are taking everything into account. We unapologetically stick to the facts and the truth because we're Muslim. That's the way we preserve the religion. That's the way we preserve family dynamics, the Islamic lifestyle.
As Muslims especially, this is something we really need to be careful about because we all do it, male and female. If we hear one thing that we don't like from somebody, we kind of shut down our ears to all the other things that they're saying, even though they might be making a lot of sense and they might be Islamically correct and they might be actually being very positive. And so we should be looking at things from a logical perspective and not just getting emotional. This is something that both women and men do these days, because even the men get emotional about certain things sometimes. We're talking to the sisters. We as women need to be careful that when we hear certain statements like the brother is making, we don't automatically take offense. Try to be open-minded enough to let the person clarify what they're saying so that we can benefit from it. A lot of cultures, obviously, especially Western culture, there's feminism and, now we've got the red pill movement. Everybody's just thinking about themselves. And if we don't think about how we can communicate effectively, women understanding the point of view of men and men understanding the point of view of women, we're not going to actually be able to move forward as a society on a whole. So this is why it's so important. But the reality is a lot of the things that the feminism movement has done to counteract some of the negativities that were happening to women before. The reality is now it's been to the detriment. A lot of things that have happened as a result of feminism has been to the detriment of women, and we can see that. So we need to think about a lot of the ways that women are actually suffering now because of feminism, which they weren't suffering before. In Islam, we don't have these problems. Everybody in the East seems to look to whatever the West is doing as the pinnacle of, influence and example of what we need to be doing.
I think all these issues demonstrate the consequences of straying from the guidance. Yes, liberalism, feminism, it has had an impact and an influence in the sisters and what they deem to be right and wrong. Again, this is a lack of knowledge and commitment to the deen. This brother was saying they feel that he isn't tackling feminism, but huge way of tackling this issue is to direct your content towards the men. His target audience is the men. I think we have enough brothers online that are focused on the sisters and where they're lacking and all the rest of it. So there has to be balance somewhere, right?
Of course, and I just find it funny. It's like you'll have brothers or even men in general who have, content which is targeted towards men, trying to help men improve. Somebody will say, oh, why don't you talk about women? And then when they do, and they start picking apart women, then it's a problem. I don't know if you heard of the guy, Kevin Samuels. He died just, I think it was last week or something now. But he's like one of the people that they consider, quite influential in the red pill movement. His channel, he initially started it for the men. He's focusing on the Black community as a whole. It's mainly male focused. He used to rip the men to pieces when he used to comment on things they were doing. He really used to critique them very strongly. And he said, when he was doing that, nobody was complaining. Nobody was complaining about it, but they was asking why you don't talk about the women. And as soon as he started talking about the women, then everybody had a problem with the things that he was saying. So we have to be careful what we ask for. This brother isn't talking about the women. Let him carry on doing what he's doing. Let him focus on the men. He doesn't need to talk about women's issues. That's the point that he's trying to make.
I know who Kevin Samuels was. With him being a non-Muslim, I don't agree with a large proportion of what he's saying. Back to the Muslim channels though, alhamdulillah, for the reasonable minded, you are able to differentiate between channels who are wanting to use shock factor in order to gain views and a following, between those who are pushing out Islamic knowledge to strengthen and empower the Ummah, and that's both to the males and the females. There is a clear difference, alhamdulillah. Many people out there are doing great things for the sake of Allah, for the sake of Islam, for the sake of the Ummah. However, we do have an issue where we have women channels out there who are not a representation of Islam, but technically are a representation of Islam because they're visibly Muslim. And then you also have these red pill Muslim guys who are pickup artists turned Muslims. Like, some of their content is shocking, not a representation of the best of men. Who are the best of men? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is Umar radiallahu anhu. It is Uthman, Ali, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Again, have to have our priorities in check. Both men and women do. There's an issue with the men and the families, and there's going to be an issue everywhere else. Why would you tackle the reaction but not the thing that's causing the reaction?
Exactly.
I'm not blaming all men. Women do take advantage, women do push the boundaries, but it's a point to make though. Shall we continue?
They're to be taken care of. That's awama. If feminism causes a woman to misbehave, well, that's her man's problem. I mean, first of all, you need to decide what you mean by feminism, because it doesn't mean anything and everything that empowers women and gives them advantages and rights that are granted to them. That's not feminism, because Islam grants women all sorts of rights, all sorts of advantages, all sorts of accommodations and considerations are granted to women in Islam. None of that is feminism. All of that is Islam. If you have a problem with those things, then you have a problem with the deen. And that's what I want to talk to you about. If you're a man and you have a problem with those things, then you're not being a good man, you're not being a good Muslim. If you're not fulfilling the rights that it is your responsibility as a Muslim, it's your duty as a Muslim to see that these rights are fulfilled on the earth.
I think that's such a good point, and something that grates me whenever we as women address issues with men, we are automatically by default a feminist.
Yeah.
Even when you're being reasonable and you're coming from an Islamic perspective, like an actual Islamic perspective, even then there's this patronizing sort of narrative where it's like, yeah, but you do have feministic tendencies, you just don't realize it. And you're just like, seriously? Some brothers speak about women as if they're pure objects, speaking out about women who gain Islamic knowledge and become shaykhs. And you're like, whoa. Let's just relax, because you're in one sentence criticizing women for losing their Islamic identity, but in the other sentence you're saying if you become too religious then there's a problem. You're so inconsistent right now, and the reason is usually is because there's something lacking within your understanding of Islam. Me and you, we have conversations about where Muslim men are falling short, but also many times we've had conversations about the women. None of us are flawless, but it's how do we take that and come together? It will always be through the means of Islam.
That's the thing. When we hear something and it sounds like it pinches our ears, it sounds like something negative to us. We need to refocus, and the refocus is back coming to the point of the deen. Okay, listening before we just jump and critique. Wallahi, I see it all the time. I've seen it from sisters and I've seen it from brothers too. We just can't take criticism. It's this pampered mentality. And coming back to the point that you were saying about Muslim women being educated. If your Muslim woman is not educated, if she does not understand the deen, what do you think is going to happen to your children? Are you going to be the one that's going to be taking care of them at home, and are you the one that they're going to be seeing pray 5 times a day? You don't have time for that, you know? So you have to think about these things, because I've seen it so many times, sisters who have little to no Islamic education, and this could be from any cultural background. There's not just us Westerners, reverts, could be somebody who's Arabic speaking. If she has very little understanding of the deen, subhanAllah, the children behave reckless. Doesn't know how to manage the children properly. They've got no Islamic etiquette. They don't have manners. They don't know how to behave. I'm not trying to disrespect any sisters, but wallahi, this is part of the problem. If you don't make sure the woman is educated, this is what happens. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, a woman is married for 4 things. And he didn't mention cooking and cleaning. And wallahi, I'm all for the cooking and cleaning. Wallahi, I'm all for that. I love cooking and cleaning, and no child of mine, Inshā'Allāh, will leave my house without being able to cook and clean. But that is male and female, because these are life skills. It was 4 things, and the one that Prophet Muhammad said we need to marry for is for the religion. Why? Trying to do their best to be the best Muslims that they can be, so that they can be the best individuals that they can be. Then we have already made the best foundation for the beginning of our Islamic homes, our Muslim families. And inshallah, when we have children, even when you have disagreements, everything will be coming back to the center, which is Islam, the middle way. You will have that as your balance, as your focus. And inshallah, your children will be able to see this. And we'll have, inshallah, healthier homes, healthier relationships as Muslims. But right now, we're not having that, because everybody just wants to think about their rights and what the other person isn't doing. But what are we doing? When we think about our rights, we need to think about where we're also falling short in regards to that other person. Your family is a trial for you. It's a way that Allah will test us, subhanAllah. If your wife is not influenced by the deen because of her lack of knowledge of it, she's going to be influenced by everything else. Some people like to think that, oh, well, you marry a revert, so therefore automatically she's going to have these problems, and it's like a whole list. Okay, but it happens with the Muslim communities too. If we ignore the fact that a Muslim woman needs to be educated, especially when it comes to our religion, she's going to be a problem. If it's not for you directly, it's going to be on your kids.
What are we here for? What are we striving for? We're here to worship Allah. We recognize and love Allah, and we're here for the sake of Allah, but we're striving for Jannah. How are we getting there? How are we getting there? We have to have Islamic knowledge. And a great point that you made was, you know, if it doesn't have an impact on us, it will definitely have an impact on our children. And a huge part of that is the nurturing of the children, you know. And if the woman doesn't have the knowledge to know how necessary it is to nurture the kids within an environment that is full of remembrance in the multitude of ways, you're just unnecessarily putting the kids and your family at risk. And as a man, that should be main priority. This should be common sense. I mean, when you look at some of the content out there, I'm not mentioning any channel specific because the channels speak for themselves. A lot of this sort of disconnect between the Muslim husband and the Muslim wife, and I think it's such a shame. Like, there's this, we need to look at this, you know, ideology outside of Islam, because this will help us understand women's mentality. You know, you need to treat them mean to keep them keen, and blah blah blah. If we look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if we look at Umar radiallahu anhu, did they treat their women mean to keep them keen? Really? So, you know, may Allah guide us all. May Allah guide us all. We all fall short. But what makes us Muslims is about recognising that, coming back from that, making tawbah, and then starting again. All of these problems stem from a lack of Islam and remembrance within the home. And no remembrance will stay in the home where there's no knowledge. Any mistakes made in this video is a reflection of me and my limitations as a human being, and any good in this video is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God the Almighty.